regarding tonight's insight. The societal breakdown we predicted in February 2019 is now here. What does this societal breakdown look like? What is causing it, and why is it happening? The only reason that society reaches a breaking point like the one you are experiencing now is when the imbalance between the rich and poor is strained. The recent death of a Black man was the tipping point, setting this societal breakdown into motion. The death of a Black man in Minnesota was the match that lit the fire. Okay, Ray, we've got a lot to talk about tonight. And if you didn't get, I just read a few little pieces out of Linda's Weekly Guided Insights. You want to sign up for those. You want to get those so you're on top of what's really going on. The guides are going to be speaking to you tonight about that. We're going to bring them in more tonight because we really don't want to have our bias on, what's happening. We just want it clean. We want you guys to get the information and the truth about what's going on. All right, Ray, what do we have?
We had a comment this morning.
Yep.
And, it came from R. Harris. It said, yes, the stock market booming while the economy tanks proves your point. The super wealthy buy senators in cheap states like Wyoming, the Dakotas, and West Virginia to keep our tax dollars rolling into their pockets. A simple truth. If something can't go on forever, it won't. And we've reached that point.
Now, we happen to know who this is. This is somebody who's really educated.
Yep.
He stays up on what's going on in the world. And he knows what he's talking about. So what did I say to him?
You said that's right. Join us tonight. I'll be streaming live on my Facebook page, Facebook timeline, YouTube channel at 6 p.m. Pacific time for a spirited discussion. I like that play on words, spirited.
That's right. And we're going to have one tonight. The guides are really looking forward to answering your questions and responding to your comments, concerns, whatever you want to talk about this situation, how it affects you, anything. This is a good time to talk about it. But this was the linchpin, this thing with this Black man in Minnesota that was killed.
George Floyd.
And it was just the linchpin that set people off about the injustices, the imbalances, the inequality that's been going on really strongly since 2008. It's been going on before that, but since 2008, since that last crash, and all the corporations and the big banks and everybody were bailed out, most of them. The ones that weren't bailed out are non-existent now. So, they leave it. You're the one that didn't get bailed out. You're the one that got left in the dust. This time, you got a little bit of pay. You couldn't even go outside for 3 months, right? And now you're still kind of leery about going outside. Is it safe? Should you? And even if you can, even if you are okay to go out, are there just riots everywhere? I've had many people email me about the riots are going on right, or not the riots,
protests.
But the protests are going on right outside their door because they're living in these cities, right? And they're terrified. They don't want to go outside. It's not the coronavirus that's keeping them in. It's these protests that's keeping them in. So, and then of course there's the curfews and there's all this stuff that's keeping you in place. All right.
Well, a couple of things that I know. There's number one that in 2019 February the guides came through and predicted what was happening right now.
Right.
That's not a one of a kind, one-off coincidence. This happens all the time with your insights.
Right. They come through all the time. We've been doing these since May of 2014, as they've been showing you what's coming, as they've been warning you, as they've been giving you insight about navigating the world that you're now living in, okay? And how it's moving us in this direction. So this isn't a skirmish that's going on. This is a breakdown. We're now in it, you guys. You're going to see one thing after the other happen. Just as soon as one thing seems to be resolved, the coronavirus, comes this murder of this black man that set off this rage that people had been building up for years and years and years of injustices, imbalances, unfairness, okay? All the things that are wrong that just was the linchpin that set it off. So
The difference between most of the people can remember 2008, 2009, and there was a economy crash. The economy crashed because the big banks and being overstretched and over leveraged, and trillions of dollars were paid out to bail out big corporations, like you said, and the big banks. But the difference between then and now is people were working.
they still had jobs.
They still had jobs.
I mean, many of them didn't have jobs, but it wasn't like now where the entire world was shut down economically. I mean, hello.
The worst unemployment in the history of our country.
Right.
You got 45 million people
See,
unemployed.
That all by itself doesn't make any sense. If you really look at it, what's wrong with that picture? Okay. So let's let the guides interject right now with that thought in mind. What is this? And here they go.
We come in truth and love. To us, they are the same. We see that in your world, a breakdown like this occurs every 10 or 12 years. Each one has its uniqueness, but also many similarities. We see breakdowns in society as a supply and demand problem. On one hand, you have a high demand for something, but there's little of that something to be had. For example, social order. There's a high demand now for social order, but a scarcity of it. Jobs are in high demand, but there are few out there. In fact, most of the lower level jobs and some middle management jobs have been decimated. People are seeking better health care, a high demand for affordable and quality health care, but little is available. Basic necessities of life in stores are in high demand, but you can't find them on the shelves. Equality is in high demand, but little has been done over the last 10 years to help this terrible, out of balance situation. While most people only see these inequities one way and come out demanding change via protests and riots all they're doing is standing against something. They're they are against police brutality. They are against inequality. They are against not being able to work. But what is it that the same people are for? You rarely get anywhere by being against something. You have to have something to replace it. You have to be for something and not just against everything that happens to be the chaos of the moment. This is how the system works. This is how you decide who to vote for and who to get out of office. Politicians all have platforms that they run on. And that's how a person decides who to vote for. They agree with this person's platform because they stand for something of value that lines up with you. Every politician is different, and that's what makes the country interesting. So before you go out in a rage and protest against something, have something in mind that you are for and a plan to implement it.
So while people are raging and they're making their point clear that they want justice, they want balance, they want fairness. If they're just running around going, we want this, we want, well, what is it exactly you want? You need to organize. If you're not organized, you're not going to get any attention, any respect. You're not going to have anything to build it on, anything to for other people to join in, because you're not clear about what it is that you're asking for. That's really what it comes down to. What are you asking for? What is it that you are for? We know what everyone's against. Okay, we got the picture. We see the picture, but what are we for? Okay. This is where the rich and the rich know what they're for and they unite. Actually, the poor, they know what they're for too, and they unite. You know who doesn't? Is the middle class.
Right.
The middle class is all over the place because what the middle class does is they battle each other. They compete with each other. The poor doesn't compete with each other. The rich don't compete with each other. In fact, they look out for each other. It's the extremes of this imbalance that look out for each other. Otherwise, they wouldn't exist. Us in the middle, we're really the victims here because we don't look out for each other, for our own kind. Let's take an example of that. Let's say you've got a house and this coronavirus thing put you out of work and now you're in jeopardy. Yeah, the bank gave you a couple months leeway, but you still don't have the money. I mean, you can hardly feed your family. How can you make the mortgage payment month 3, month 4, 5, let alone the back payments? Come on. How can you do it? Your neighbor or somebody in your or an investor, right, is just waiting to pounce on that opportunity to steal that asset from you. One of your own kind, one of those middle class people. That's usually how this goes. So the middle class eats each other alive, while the poor look out for each other. They really do. And the rich look out for each other. They stick together, just like the poor. So what are we thinking? What are we doing here? This has been going on. Actually, this has been going on as long as I've been alive. The middle class eats each other alive. That's
Yeah.
way messed up.
Yeah, I mean, you had some firsthand experience with these riots and protests. I mean, you grew up in the ghetto. You grew up in the inner city.
I did in the 60s
Right.
when it was exploding all around me. And so I've seen this before. I know what this looks like. And this is overdue. Okay. By the time people rebel and protest, and I mean, I hate to say riot, but they're really desperate. The rioting, I think, happened just because people they had no reserves. So and they were angry at the high end stores. I mean, they hit Fashion Square in the middle of Scottsdale.
Rodeo Drive,
yeah, I mean, they're angry at the haves, at the wealthy people who can afford all that. That's normal lifestyle. They're angry about it.
It's rejection of the current order, no matter whose viewpoint you take. It's rejection of the current order. But another problem with the middle class over the years is their attitude toward it. They all thought it can't happen here in this country. They see people rebel and riot in the streets and others. Oh, that's happening over there, but it'll never happen here.
Well, it is happening.
It is happening here.
Yeah.
And huge reforms.
And really what's happened, what's really happened since 2008, it took the middle class really took the middle class down, wiped most of the middle class out.
Right. I mean, people were working 2 and 3 jobs and they still can't make ends meet. And they used to be middle class people.
And so the breakdown now is a no-brainer. It totally makes sense. And there's going to be other waves of this that continue to show up, wave after wave after wave of problems that are going to keep coming up. So you guys need to be prepared. All right. I mean, we did a webinar May 30th, and it talked about it. We got into some really nitty gritties. The guides did. We only do these on those webinars because they're closed platforms, $29 to join the webinar. And they really talked about it, and they're going to be talking about it again the end of this month about it on a deeper level, about what's going on and how you need to be prepared for this. Okay, you need to be prepared because it's going to be wave after wave after wave of this, and don't get used to. Don't think things are going to go back to normal and everything's going to be okay, because you guys, it's an agenda. It's an agenda, and it's out of your hands. It's way over your head.
But people think they can beat it. I mean, I think that's the way people always think. They can take what little bit of money they have left and turn their $1,000 into $1 million overnight. And all these.
You're still playing the game like you can, like Ray said, like you can beat it. But there are 100 steps in front of you.
Yeah.
They can predict you. They've got ways to predict your behavior that would blow your mind. All right. So.
And the other problem is, what are you going to invest in? I mean, if you have a limited amount of money, the top 10% of the wealthiest people own 85% of the stock type investments. That's 15% left for all the retail type investors. And that's not happening. They're not investing. The little guy's not investing now. It's just, they're conserving their money. They're spending all their money. They're overextended in everything they've done since the last bailout.
Right.
This bailout was different because not so much that the mega banks and the uber rich didn't get most of the trillions of dollars. The people got something this time. They got their $1,200 check, or they're getting unemployment from their state and from.
That's temporary.
It is temporary.
And they went over and above to give that to the people because they know how dangerous it's going to be. That's why they did it. All right. They didn't do it because they really care about you. They did it so you wouldn't do.
Ride in the street.
That's exactly what you're doing. All right.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you're doing it, but you know, there's a lot of people doing it and they're angry and they're mad. And here's another thing. The kids that, let's say the teenagers and the young adults coming into the world, they feel ripped off. They feel like, are you kidding me? You gave me this to work in when I can't even get a job, and a job I could get, I can't even live on. It's a life destined for being poor.
Or being a criminal.
Yeah, that's right. Because if you can't feed your family, what the heck are you going to do if you can't get your job back? Okay. Not that you liked the job you had. Okay. You were just treading water. Most of you were just treading water. It wasn't a job you wanted. It wasn't a job you were respected at. Okay. So this whole breakdown it's an accumulation of what's been going on for decades.
For decades. I mean, I can remember not too many decades ago that when you went to work, you got an honest day's pay for an honest day's work. You made a wage, you made a salary.
You could feed your family.
You could feed your family. You could send your kids to college.
Yeah.
You could afford your home, you know, and a decent car. But all of a sudden,
not all of a sudden. It's been moving this way for years.
Yeah, it eats away at your lifestyle, you know. And pretty soon you've got $40,000-$50,000 of
you've got more debt than assets.
Student loan debt.
Yeah.
You know.
So Ray, who do we have on?
Who do we have on here? We have a full house. Julia, hello Julia. Julie's new. Laura Sal, hi.
Laura.
Judy, Sigmund.
Judy.
Janet. Oh, here's a stranger.
Janet.
Sam Byrne, Dr. Sam Byrne.
Sam.
Good to see you both. Hope you're well. Haven't seen us in a long time.
I know.
Sam, we were talking about you, about a month ago? We were talking about what?
Yeah, Sam.
Nina. Yeah. Nina, Andrea, Carmen, Rashida Ashley Collins, Paloma Ortiz, Jody, Paula Greca. Paul, congratulations on, I saw your book is number 2 on the.
And it's not even out.
It's not even out yet.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that. Okay, 2. What we want to hear from you guys tonight, with this precious time we have with you, is we want to hear from you. Comment or question and let your guides talk to you, okay, about what you might be concerned about regarding this issue around the societal breakdown. We predicted February 2019 is now here. That's what this is about from Linda's weekly guided insights that we do here on Tuesdays. All right. So we're here to help you with this. We're here to help you understand how you get through this situation, how it's affecting you, and your guides will speak to you about that. So feel free to put in your comments or questions. Okay.
Okay. The whole thing about the societal destruction, okay, is that it happens in cycles.
Okay, this is a systematic destruction,
right,
of the system is what it is. That's what this really is, okay?
Right, most of the time when huge changes or where there was some kind of creative destruction that happens, it's because of one of 4 things: famine, a plague, well, I mean like a virus, a plague,
yeah,
total war,
right,
total war. Everybody's engaged in like a world war,
a full-on
war, not this little skirmish like Vietnam, and total revolution. But anytime you've had a revolution or a civil war, there was always one side against the other.
There was a cause.
Right.
There was not. They weren't against something. They were for something.
Right. One side was for it. One side was against it.
Right. And the lines were drawn.
Right.
Okay. But this one's unorganized. This one's dysfunctional. Now, I do have hope that there's going to be some organization around it, so it starts to make some sense where they have a seat. They have some power, a way to convey it intelligently. What do we have there? That really makes sense. So that the people, the have-nots, have a place, a strength, a message.
Okay.
What do we have?
Some comments here, some howdies from Texas and some holas from Central Mexico. Hi from Mexico. A couple of people from Mexico. Barbara Johnson wants to know what other countries will experience a societal breakdown.
That's a good question. Now, what's her name?
Barbara.
Barbara. Great, Barbara. Thank you for the question. And the guys are going to answer that. And here they go.
The disruption of society caused by COVID-19 has affected most of the world. The countries that haven't been destroyed like many others all made an independent decision and mostly did the opposite of what other countries were doing.
Give us an example. Who are some of those countries?
Iceland, Sweden. The difference is that the people took responsibility to do the right thing, regardless of what they were being forced to do.
They didn't have to be forced to do it. They just went that way, okay?
Because normally, some of those countries, they normally have a population that looks out for each other.
Well, they're small too.
Well, they're smaller too.
They're
Yeah.
united. You know, Iceland, remember when Iceland became it?
Yeah.
Remember
And they
that?
told those big banks to take a hike.
That was in 2009.
Yeah.
Okay, and Iceland said, we're not going to
Kicked
pay
them
our,
out.
we're not going to pay our debt. We're, the debt's bogus to begin with. You guys sold us on that. You sold us down the road, and we see through you, and we reject paying you back, and we're going to go bankrupt on the debt and eliminate it. And the whole world was like, oh my God, you can't do that. Yes, you can. It's called, when they put their knee on George Floyd's neck, they pushed the life out of him. He couldn't breathe, right? Well, that's a real symbol, you guys. That's very symbolic about the times that we're in. Iceland, when that pressure came down on them, and they said, we're not going to let you push the life out of us. We're going to push back, and we're going to say no. We're going to say no to what you sold us. You sold us those lousy derivatives.
Oh,
You
yeah.
sold us those. And everyone did it to everyone. But Iceland was the one that said, we're not going to pay you back. We're going to go bankrupt, and we're going to walk away from the debt, and we're going to save our people. That's what they chose to do. All right. They weren't intimidated by that. So they didn't let the force get pushed down on them. They didn't let the air get pushed out of them. They didn't, this thing with the mask. I got to say this. You can't breathe when you wear one. I'm going to repeat that. You can't breathe when you wear one. I mean, when you wear the right kind, it's very hard to breathe through it. And there's that symbolism coming from George Floyd. I can't breathe. What do you think that's telling you, you guys? You haven't been breathing for a long time.
And the people with an agenda have had their knee on your neck for a long time.
That's right. And finally, people, it only took this incident with George Floyd to light the match, to pull the linchpin, to set the thing off. Okay. You've been sick of it for a long time. So that's what this is telling you when you look under the hood. That's the symbolism of what's going on under the surface, okay? And every one of us has felt it in some way. I'll tell you what, Ray and I, when we felt that being pushed down on us, and we felt it, we started feeling it in 2010.
Right.
We had a conversation, and I said to Ray, I said, you know what? We're not going to go through this. We're not doing this. We're pulling out. We're taking our losses. We're grabbing our money. We're getting the heck out of it. We're letting the rest go, and we're moving away from it. I did what Iceland did. I said,
No more.
I'm not having it. Okay. So and how did I learn to do this? I learned to do this from the time I was a kid when I had my mother coming down on me all the time. Okay. And I learned, man, I learned how to negotiate that. I don't mean compromise, you guys. I mean, I learned how to think for myself. I learned what was best for me. And I learned how to move away from the pressure that was trying to repress me. Okay. I took the action. Now I did that single-handedly. So I learned how to manage my life really well. So I never let anybody bear down on me and tackle me and keep me down. I never let that happen. Okay.
It's surprisingly hard for people to say no.
And this is this lesson in your life. You have to learn to do what Ray just said. You have to learn to cut your losses. You have to learn to say no. You have to learn to say, I've had it. You've had it, Dave. And I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not putting up with this anymore. I don't care what you say is right, or, if I don't do this, the consequences are that. I know what the consequences are. I'm prepared for it, and make those shifts and moves. We made massive changes from 2010 to 2016. Actually, 2018. It took us 8 years to really just completely, get real with the whole thing. And it takes a little while. So start where you are. And I will say this, how do you move through it? I'm always going to bring this in your face because I wrote this for a reason. There's nobody who writes a book who makes $1 zillion, all right? Well, some people do, but I didn't write that for this. This is the companion journal to Guided. When people came to me and they said, wow, Linda, and they want to know how to do this for themselves. They want to know how to stand up for themselves. They want to know how to rewind what was wrong in their life and start getting it right and make this connection and be powerful in their life. All right. So this journal in part 3, there's part 2 and part 3. I suggest you start writing in part 3 and documenting what's going on your journey. 15 minutes every day. Put in a new journal entry. So you track how you're doing. You track what's going on. When I was 7 years old, I talk about it in Guided. That's when I started journaling. It saved me, you guys. I was able to take what was going on in my outer world and trying to impact me, trying to defeat me. And I took it out of here and I put it on the pages. I wrote it in my journal. Then I took my journal and I reread what I wrote like a day later, or a week later, or a month later. And I was like, wow, now I can see how good my decisions are. I can see how bad they are. I can see where I'm taking it personally, and I can see where I'm not. I can see what I'm learning, and I can see where I'm not learning. So I'm going to learn that so I can get this right, and I can get through this thing. All right. And you get better and better and better. You've got to document, because if you don't document your journey in part 3, part 2 is a different story. Part 2 is when you do enough documenting your journey in part 3, you can go to part 2 and begin to flush out where it all started, where it birthed itself and set you off on the wrong path. But until you start writing in part 3, you're not going to see what the repetitiveness is. Where is it I'm hung up? Is it because I compromised my whole life? Is it because I got stuck in fear? Is it because I forgot to ask? Is it because I was rebellious? It was because I was bullied? Was it because, where did you get stuck? And it lets you go back, and then bam, you start to see what it is. You write it in there, and you never, ever have to grind yourself through it again. It's on the pages for you to refer back to, so you remain conscious. Until you can remain conscious, you can't be aware of what's going on around you, so you can make the best choices. You can't be present. You're either stressed out about the future, or you're living in huge regret about your past. You don't have the capacity to be present. You've got to start writing it down so you can become conscious first. And then those don't have the pull they used to have. All right.
That's why it's called a consciousness movement. Linda Schwartz said, some people, she moved to Mexico to live in a more cost-effective place. I saw an article, was it this morning or yesterday, about how the wealthy are fleeing the cities, moving out to the suburbs.
Yeah,
they see the writing on the wall. This is not something that's going to go away anytime soon.
No, it's not. It's not a skirmish. It's a skirmish. This is a societal breakdown in motion.
And we're about halfway through it since the last bailout.
Right. So we have another 10 years of this.
Yes.
Okay. 10?
Oh my God, Linda, I thought you weren't going to tell me anything bad.
10 years of this? Okay, let's let the guides talk to them.
During times of prosperity, inequality grows. The powers that be, those who have an agenda to consolidate wealth and power, can prosper during these times of inequity, but only for so long. The inequality is what always redefines republics. It always ends up being the poor class against the wealthy. Just look at any empire that has ever existed and study the reason for their downfall. It's always the same. The wealthy against the poor is the downfall of every republic. So while the people with an agenda try to destroy the middle class by locking them down, making them fearful of getting sick, stealing their jobs, shutting down an entire economy, they are getting wealthier. If you want to see this stopped, you have to do something that hurts them where it counts, in their pocketbooks. The best way to passively non-comply with their agenda is to stop buying anything they're selling.
That's right. That's right. So if you feel like you want that new house, or
New car.
you want that new car, or you want all this new stuff, just remember who you're supporting on every front. Anytime that you spend $1, you are voting. You're either voting for the equality or you're voting for them, because you're enticed, you're pulled in, you're sucked in. Okay, you have to catch yourself doing it, you guys. How do you do it? How do you become conscious? You write and you tell on yourself in part 3. Tell on yourself so you can begin to see it on the pages. Get it out of here. Get that urge out of here and put it on those pages. And then you can go back and go, I am so glad I wrote this down. I wrote down what it is, what it was I was about to do, how it made me feel to do it and not do it. Okay, take my power back. I don't need it. If you don't need it, don't buy it. Okay. And then out of that realization, you're going to have a realization around how that felt. And only then do you have the power to say, no, no. Okay. No, I don't need it. I don't want it. I won't contribute to it. Okay. That's it. You take your power back. You vote with your dollars when it comes to this situation. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's if people don't think that
You have power.
these, yeah, or they have power, but these people with an agenda are out to destroy the middle class. Look at what's happening to the restaurant owner or the bar owner or the small business owner,
The mob.
the mom and pops, who
That's what they were talking about earlier, about the consolidation. The rich consolidates all of this. They wipe them all out so they can what? The McDonald's survive because they're a corporation. They're huge. They're owned and consolidated. Okay. What's another big consolidation, right?
Well, what's going to happen is a domino effect. These people, when they shut down the
Yeah.
blaming this,
Yeah.
all of a sudden
Justified.
the mom and pops, the small business owners had to send their people home. They had to shut down, and the result was they can't pay their rent to their landlord, who's another small business. He's a little bit bigger business owner, but
Right.
he's still not the super wealthy, uber rich.
Not
Okay?
in most cases. Right.
In most cases, they are not.
Right.
So if you can't pay your people, you lay them off. You can't pay your rent. Your
Okay.
landlord can't pay the bank, the
Okay.
big bank.
Right.
So what's going to happen is,
That's when they get hurt. The big boys get hurt.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So
It's that domino effect,
right.
the ripple effect.
And the bank comes in, takes back all this commercial property,
Don't have a choice.
wipes everybody out, and they sell it to their friends.
Yeah.
And you know who wins in this whole entire scenario? Lawyers. A tsunami of lawsuits
Yeah.
just because of the coronavirus,
Yeah.
especially in real estate.
So, it's been coming for a long time, you guys. And people just didn't realize it. They got still lost and distracted by all the stuff going on out there and didn't think it could ever happen. Or it's not that they didn't think it could happen. We haven't had a correction in over 10 years. Okay. We haven't had a correction in 12 years. That's a long run for us, for the United States, without a correction of any kind. That's a long, long time. So when it does go down, they kick the can down the road. The derivatives have never been resolved. I don't know if you guys know about what that means, but it's never been resolved. And the debt that's been stacking up, it's greater than ever. How in the heck can that sustain? It doesn't sustain.
There's not enough money in the world to cover the debt.
No, it's not meant. And I'll tell you something else. It's not meant to work. If you guys ever thought it was meant to work, you were mistaken. It was never meant to work.
And
what's coming next? I just can't help it. What's coming next is going to be in our webinar at the end of this month.
Right.
Okay, what's coming next? So if you guys really want to know what's coming next and really, get your head around it and get prepared for it, so that you don't get smashed by that next wave that's coming, then get the webinar. They're $29. We'll be announcing it sometime in the next couple of weeks. All right. But they're going to get into, because we can't do this in open forums. It's too taut. Okay.
we don't want to get taken down or put on some list.
Yeah, we're not going to go through that. So
nope.
Anyway, it's too much. So anyway, this is what this is all about. This is just the first wave. Actually, the first wave was the virus. Now it's the situation with
riots and
with the
protests.
Riots and stuff about being the point with getting brutality.
Yeah, police brutality.
Okay.
And inequality.
Right.
And these we live in a big city. These protests are going on every night. They've gone on for what, 12 nights now or something like that?
Yeah.
Why? Because the people have no jobs.
Well, and they're unorganized.
Right.
See, it's too bad that the people that are rooting for our interest are so unorganized. Okay.
Right.
So until they get organized and they are fighting for something instead of against something, this won't have any roots, any it won't be substantial. It won't have any premise, and that's what needs to happen next. Okay, I think we're going to get there. I think enough people talk about it, realize it, wake up to it, and enough people get together and organize it. Then they've got something. All right.
Yeah, it's not going to happen overnight. It's
No.
going to take a while.
Yeah, this is a process. So we're going to close this session tonight with their closing message about the societal breakdown we predicted in 2019 is now here. But first, I've got a few announcements. Join me June 16th. I will be streaming live on my Facebook page, my Facebook timeline, and my YouTube channel. Use the search term Linda Deer. This will be a Q&A and commentary for next Tuesday's Insight, published in Linda's Weekly Guided Insights with me, Ray, and my spirit guides at 6 p.m. Pacific time, so don't miss it. In Linda's Weekly Guided Insights, my spirit guides will be talking about a soul upgrade. Humanity needs a soul upgrade so they can hear us. They're talking about the guides here, so you can hear them. Right now, the human race needs an upgrade, specifically a soul upgrade. This upgrade was planned for the entire galaxy and universe. Many other life forms in the universe have already gone through most of their upgrades. However, something is holding them back from completing their upgrades. It's humanity on Earth. They are all waiting for the humans to get it, waiting for you to become awakened enough to see that if you don't stop living your life consumed with distractions and greed, you are interfering with this universal upgrade. So don't miss it. And by the way, if you're not getting Linda's Weekly Guided Insights, which is where this is going to be published, have it delivered to your email box every Tuesday by signing up. It's free. Look for the description look for the link in the description of this video. This Thursday, June 11th at 6 p.m. Pacific time, join us on our Facebook private group, Ask the Universal Channel. The teachers of Ask the Universal Channel will be performing the following. Veronica's spirit guides will talk about why people have money troubles. Kathy's spirit guides will explain how to guard your energy from energy vampires. And Joy's spirit guides will talk about keeping commitments and staying true to your word. This event will be hosted by Linda Deer and Ray Holly. Look for the instructions on how to join this private group if you're not already in it in the description of this video. And this Saturday at 1 p.m., I will be reading from chapter 9 of Guided, okay? So the closing message from the guides, we're going to do that now. If my work, if my books, if these insights, if any of this helps you on your journey going forward, tell your friends, share this video. I really appreciate that. All right. So we're going to do the closing message from the guides about the societal breakdown we predicted February 2019 is now here. And here they go.
This societal breakdown you are going through is based on one thing: the rejection of the current societal order. People say that when huge reforms happen, they require huge sacrifices. You will hear much of this from the government people who want to appear to be listening and doing something. They want you to sacrifice, not them. These huge sacrifices have to be evenly distributed if you want equality. Another thing to remember is that for all breakdowns to happen, you have to break with something. Get away from something. Stop doing something you've done for decades. Learn to have something you are for and not just be against everything. You must find like-minded people to formulate your platform for what you stand for. If it is a noble and needed cause, you will find many followers.
But it has to be organized.
Right.
It's haphazard right now. The people who are protesting, it's disorganized, and so it brought attention to it. It's a problem. Everybody is now has been informed that this is a problem, that now it needs to be organized. Put some thought into that.
Yeah, put some thought into also shutting off the news. I saw something interesting yesterday or this morning. It said, if you shut off the news, all the media that's promulgating all of this fear and fear mongering, shut them off for a month, 80% of the world's problems will go away.
And how will that happen?
People won't be feared into thinking that it's a problem.
So they won't have an audience. They won't have an energy
Right.
flow that it's like a vortex pulling you in.
Right.
You just don't let it happen. And you vote with your money. Just remember, every time you spend your money, that's a vote. Okay. So whatever you're buying, buy what you need to have. You know you need to have some things. We all do. All right. But just really go on a budget for the cause. Okay, don't go on a budget because you need to save money. And yeah, you save money, that takes the pressure off you, and you don't have the problems you used to have. That just happens to go along with it. But the fact that you vote with your money and you cut that off. Tell them just about one thing that happened in the industry you may or may not know about. Ray, talk about the car industry. You may or may not know about what happened from this last 3 months of what happened in the car industry. The rental car market was decimated by this.
Right. Nobody's traveling. Nobody's renting cars.
Right.
There's over 500,000 rental cars for sale to the public they can't get rid of.
Right.
And Hertz went bankrupt.
Right.
These are companies who've been in business for as long as I can remember, since I was a kid.
At least as old as we all are.
Right.
So they've been decimated. Okay. And that's the car industry. So
and the car dealers, some of the banks are cutting off their car loans.
Hello, it's about time. I mean, they can't go, they're already in enough trouble. All right.
Right. Yeah. we drive by some of these upscale dealerships here in Phoenix, and they must have 10, $15 million worth of inventory just sitting there and not one customer on the lot.
So when you do your research and you look under the hood, you don't just look at the surface, what you hear on the news, what they want you to hear, but you look under the hood, you do your own research, you start to see a lot of stuff that you go, whoa, had I only known. Okay. Yeah. Another one that got hit real hard is the clothing industry. Got decimated. People don't need to wear these fancy clothes to go to work. They live in their pajamas.
Yeah, they have their work pajamas and their sleep pajamas.
So that's a pretty good gig, when you can work from home and if you still have a job and you don't have to worry about all that. You guys, you're in for some amazing, amazing changes going forward. And if you know what's coming, you can position yourself for it. You can have a better life than you would have had under the old paradigm, under the old normal. You'll be so glad that that's over.
Yeah, these people, more than half of the people, they say within 5 years, over 50% of the people, working people, are going to be working from home, whether working for their company from home or working on their own business from home, they're consultants or whatever. But it's a tremendous expense for these companies, especially in big cities, to redesign their offices.
It's just killing them. Okay. So that whole old normal, it got wiped out so quickly, and we still don't know just how valid all that was. Shutting the entire global economy down. Excuse me, but
It's never happened.
That's a massively.
It didn't even happen during the Spanish flu.
That totally makes no sense. If you just look at it and evaluate it, and just the mere fact that happened is unbelievable. Something more is going on. That I'm going to tell you that. You're going to hear about it more at the end of the month when we do our webinar on the last Saturday of the month at 1 p.m. Pacific time. We'll let you know when we're going to do that. You guys, we'll see you maybe Thursday in Ask the Universal Channel group. We'll see you on Saturday when I read chapter 9 from Guided.
It's like having somebody read you a bedtime story. It's wonderful.
And I know Ray loves it. And we'll see you next Tuesday. Okay.
Right.
We love you guys.
Turn that TV off. Stop watching those
you can
scary news things and all those drug commercials.
Yeah, but don't test yourself. See how strong you are. If you don't turn it off, just don't watch it and listen to it and see how different your perspective is, okay? How it doesn't have a hold of you like it used to, okay? You're going to learn how to manage yourself better so this stuff doesn't scare you. You can't function when you're in fear. When you are in fear, your guides can't reach you, okay?
Right.
So you are never alone and always being guided. Just don't buy into that fear, you guys.
All right. Good night, everybody.